When 10 offers are being submitted, how do you make your offer stand out? And if you're a seller, how do you avoid some of the traps and pitfalls in today's marketplace? Well, we're going to talk about that in today's video, and we're going to get started right now. Hi, my name is David Matney with Nebraska Realty. I'm a local realtor here in Omaha, Nebraska. Now let's jump into today's topic. How do you get your offer accepted? I mean, sometimes the simplest tactic is the best tactic. In today's market, agents easily get confused. You got to remember that 28% of the agents in our marketplace did not do a single transaction last year. You may very well have the best offer, but if it's written in such a way that the listing agent doesn't understand it, or they have 20 offers to go through with 20 escalation clauses, sometimes the best way to get your offer across the finish line is to make it the simplest way going forward. And here's another thing to consider. You want to make it easy for your offer to be accepted. Okay, and if there's multiple offers being submitted, chances are someone submitted an offer very similar to yours. So sometimes the different point of differentiation is the little details. So let's say you're covering an appraisal gap. Make sure you provide that seller with proof of funds showing that you have the ability to come to the closing table with additional funds. And here's another point about escalation clauses. Sometimes the best way to do it is to not submit one at all. Let's say a home is listed for $300,000, but you're willing to escalate the price up to $350,000. It might be a better tactic to simply go right out of the gate and offer $350,000 right from the jump. Because here's the other thing you got to consider. A lot of agents are doing this right now as well. They're offering escalation clauses with no ceiling. That means if there's 2 escalation clauses with no ceiling, theoretically, they've escalated the purchase price to an infinite purchase price. That's simply not the case. When you do an escalation clause, the final purchase price, whatever it is determined to be, it has to be agreed upon by the buyer and the seller. If you're a buyer, one way you can make things simple is to not do an escalation clause. Now let's look at things from the seller's point of view, and let's talk about home inspections. Now, someone may ask for a home inspection, and they may say it's for informational purposes only. That may sound great, but here's the thing. Offers can be amended. So just because the purchaser says that initially doesn't mean they can't move the goalpost. A lot of times what they'll do is then they'll do the inspection and then they will say, oh, but I want this fixed. So you need to be aware of that. And this applies to our marketplace. The way our contracts are written, the buyer has a 14-day window to conduct any and all inspections. That gives that buyer a window and a period in order to back out of the deal. So if it's an emotional transaction and they feel like they've paid too much for the property, that inspection window gives them an easy way out during the home inspection process. A really smart thing to do is to do a pre-listing inspection. A, it protects your liability, and then number 2, it allows you to make repairs on your time frame. Because here's what happens. When an agent asks for a repair to be done, they always say that it has to be done by a licensed plumber or a licensed electrician or a licensed contractor. Now, even the most simplest repair, because it's a big CYA. So if you do a pre-listing inspection, that allows you to fix those little tiny things that maybe a qualified handyman can do. You can do those that way instead of going out and being required to hire a licensed plumber to do something. A really smart tactic, even in this market, would be to do a pre-listing inspection to find out up front. Because a lot of times what will happen is that home inspection will be a way for that buyer to wiggle out of the contract. Okay, here's another trap for sellers, and that is many times what'll happen is a seller will see dollar signs and their eyes will glaze over. And a lot of times what'll happen is people sign things electronically. Number 1, they don't read what they sign, and number 2, they don't understand what they've signed or what they've agreed to. And I'm going to use some extreme numbers here, but it just to kind of illustrate this point. Let's say you have a home listed for $300,000 and you receive 2 offers. Okay, the first offer is for $400,000 conventional financing, but they specify that they want a 90% loan to value, and they agree to pay $10,000 over the appraised amount if the home doesn't appraise for purchase price. The next offer is for $320,000. The buyer will waive the appraisal and cover any appraisal gap between the appraisal and the purchase price. And the second offer, they provide you with a proof of funds with an additional $50,000. Now, which is the best offer? Well, it depends. What if, and this is an example, but it's a possibility, what if the home appraises for $280,000? Okay, in that first offer, they said they had to have a 90% loan to value. So appraisal is part of the equation. They're paying actually $290,000 for the property. In that second offer, it would actually sell for $320,000 because they're willing to cover that appraisal gap. So it really depends upon what the appraisal is. Now, if the appraisal came back, let's say at $320,000, then the first offer would be better because actually it's selling for $330,000. Okay, so a lot of times sellers will get dollar signs in their eyes and they don't think the other way around. Well, what happens if it doesn't appraise, or what happens if it appraises low? So when you get an offer, you have to weigh the pros and cons of each offer. Here's another trap that folks fall into, and they think that, well, I have to list with a big team, or I have to list with a big company. You know, I don't want to go with a small firm. I don't want to go with a big firm. When you hire an agent to sell your property, you're hiring one agent. Agents sell homes, not companies. There are great agents on teams. There are great agents as individual agents. There are great agents at little tiny companies, and they're great agents at big companies. What you really got to do is vet out your agent as to which one you're hiring and look at their experience level. And here's the other thing too. Somebody might be in the business for 20 years, but they've been in their business their first year for 20 times. That may not be the agent for you. Hopefully those are some tips that'll help you out in terms of selling your property. And hey, if you got some value out of this, hey, go ahead and show some love for the channel and subscribe to the channel, and then check out this next video next. And hey, if you got some value out of this, hey, be sure to hit that like button and you make it a great day.